What makes a science fiction film fail? Is it bad timing, strange marketing, or being too far ahead of its time? British Sci-Fi has a wild habit of doing exactly that, stumbling at the box office, only to rise decades later as a cult masterpiece. These weren't safe bets. They were bold, bleak, beautiful experiments that audiences just didn't understand not yet. So buckle up, because we're revisiting 15 British sci-fi disasters that bombed hard, but secretly changed the genre forever. Number 15. Saturn III, 1980. Sometimes a movie's failure becomes its fame. Saturn III was supposed to be Britain's grand answer to Star Wars. Instead, it became a chaotic space opera that critics shredded and audiences ignored. Shot at Shepperton Studios, with a big-name cast, Kirk Douglas, Farrah Fawcett, and Harvey Keitel, the film promised sleek robots and interplanetary danger. What it delivered was a gorgeous mess. Behind the scenes, director Stanley Donen was reportedly miserable. The original writer, John Barry, who designed Star Wars, was fired early. The robot Hector, meant to terrify, barely moved without clanking like a tin can. And the dialogue? Stiff as a museum mannequin. Yet decades later, Saturn III found its defenders. Its claustrophobic set design and dreamy isolation fit perfectly into the eerie tone of late Cold War sci-fi. It's the kind of film you laugh at first, and then can't forget. That lonely moon base, that uncanny robot, that haunting silence, all feel strangely prophetic. For a movie mocked in 1980 Saturn III, now stands as a hypnotic misfire that dared to be different when everyone else was chasing stars. Number 14. The Damned, 1962. Imagine a film so strange that its own studio didn't know what to do with it. The Damned, also known as These Are the Damned, was Hammer Films' oddest experiment, a mix of biker gangs, Cold War paranoia, and radioactive children hidden beneath the cliffs of Dorset. Yes, really. Directed by Joseph Losey, who had fled America during the Blacklist years, this was no typical monster movie. Instead, it was an eerie warning wrapped in science fiction. The premise: rebellious youths stumble upon a secret government bunker housing children born immune to radiation potential survivors of a future apocalypse. The film's release was botched completely. It sat on a shelf for years before being quietly dumped into theaters, confusing critics and scaring nobody. But over time, its dark-tone, moody black-and-white cinematography and political undertones earned it cult admiration. Today, The Damned feels ahead of its time, a tragic, thoughtful reflection on nuclear fear disguised as pulp cinema. It's British sci-fi at its bleak, poetic best. Number 13. Quatermass and the Pit, 1967. If The Damned was underseen, Quatermass and the Pit was underappreciated. Based on the hit BBC serial, this Hammer production took its alien invasion underground, literally to the London Underground. Workers unearth a mysterious capsule containing ancient skulls and something not quite human. Professor Quatermass, the British answer to America's atomic-era heroes, realizes the shocking truth. Humanity may have Martian origins. Released during the height of the space race, this blend of horror folklore and cosmic dread went over the heads of many moviegoers. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't heroic, it was unsettling. The film's box office was modest at best, but its influence runs deep. Its fusion of science myth and urban paranoia directly inspired later works like Doctor Who, The X-Files, and even Alien. With eerie special effects and a script that treated sci-fi as serious philosophy, Quatermass and the Pit remains a British masterpiece disguised as a B-movie. It's slow, cerebral, and haunting, the kind of failure that outlived its critics. Number 12. The Day the Earth Caught Fire, 1961. The world ends not with a bang, but with a heat wave. The Day the Earth Caught Fire dared to make nuclear apocalypse look painfully real, not futuristic lasers, just London newspapers, sweaty offices, and grim resignation. Directed by Val Guest, the film follows journalists uncovering that nuclear tests have knocked Earth off its axis, sending the planet toward the sun. It wasn't a blockbuster. Its small budget and low-key realism confused audiences expecting spectacle, but what it lacked in explosions, it made up for in atmosphere. The streets of London feel oppressive, the skies tinted orange by disaster. The performances, especially by Edward Judd and Janet Monroe, feel human, not heroic. It's the rare apocalypse movie that whispers instead of shouts. Critics later re-evaluated it as one of the smartest doomsday films ever made. Decades before climate change headlines, it was already warning us about human arrogance and environmental chaos. for a supposed box office failure, The Day the Earth Caught Fire Burns Brighter Than Ever. Number 11. The Man Who Fell to Earth, 1976. How do you market a movie about loneliness, addiction to technology, and interplanetary exile, especially when your star is David Bowie fresh off his Ziggy Stardust phase? The answer, you don't. The Man Who Fell to Earth bombed bewildered audiences and became a cult religion for outsiders everywhere. Directed by Nicholas Roeg, the story follows an alien who arrives on Earth, seeking water for his dying planet, only to drown in our greed and television screens. It's surreal, fragmented, and hypnotic. At its release, critics called it cold and confusing. But later generations recognized its genius, a haunting portrait of alienation in a consumer world. Bowie, eerily ethereal, didn't just play the alien, he was one. His otherworldly aura and Rogue's experimental editing created something no one had seen before. Today the film feels like a prophecy, a warning about obsession wealth and human emptiness. It failed in 1976, but now stands as one of the most visionary pieces of British science fiction ever made. Number 10. Brazil, 1985. There are cult classics, and then there's Brazil. Terry Gilliam's darkly comic dystopia envisioned a future drowning in bureaucracy ducts and paperwork. When it hit theaters, audiences didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or run away. Universal Pictures infamously fought Gilliam over the ending, even releasing a recut version without his approval. The chaos showed Brazil flopped in America and barely did better in Britain. But over time, it became legendary. Its world of endless forms, malfunctioning machines, and faceless government absurdity predicted the age of computer screens and data surveillance. Jonathan Pryce's Tragic Dreamer and Robert De Niro's Rogue Repairman gave it unexpected humanity amid the madness. Brazil is grim gorgeous and grimly funny, like Orwell with Monty Python's Bite. It may have lost money, but it won immortality. Few failures have been studied, quoted, and worshipped as much as this one. Sometimes, a bomb just needs a few decades to go nuclear. Number 9. Sunshine, 2007. When Danny Boyle made Sunshine, he wasn't chasing aliens, he was chasing faith fire and the edge of reason. This British sci-fi thriller sent a team of astronauts to reignite a dying sun. But instead of a blockbuster, audiences got a poetic meltdown of science and spirituality. Critics admired it. Moviegoers didn't show up. The film barely broke, even earning less than its $40 million budget. Yet Sunshine glows brighter every year. Its slow descent into chaos, eerie golden visuals, and relentless tension feel less like Star Wars and more like a fever dream. Cillian Murphy and Chris Evans deliver subdued, haunted performances, while the score by John Murphy and Underworld became legendary, reused in trailer shows and even the Olympics. Boyle turned space into a cathedral where humanity's brilliance and arrogance collide. Too philosophical for mainstream crowds, too emotional for hard sci-fi fans, it was misunderstood. But time has proven Sunshine wasn't cold. It burned just too bright for its first audience to handle. Number 8. Under the Skin, 2013. Imagine Scarlett Johansson driving through Glasgow, luring strangers into a void. No special effects extravaganza, no exposition, just alien observation disguised as humanity. Under the Skin was art house science fiction that terrified studios and confused audiences. It earned barely $7 million on a $13 million budget, a quiet failure that critics couldn't stop thinking about. Director Jonathan Glazer turned the genre inside out. Shot partly with hidden cameras and real people, it blurs the line between fiction and reality. Johansson's alien doesn't invade Earth, she explores it. The silence, the stillness, the hypnotic score by Mika Levi. Everything feels alien, even the streets of Scotland. Audiences expecting a thriller walked out, but those who stayed discovered something rare. A film about empathy from the perspective of something that's never felt it. Years later, it's studied in film schools and praised as one of the most haunting British sci-fi works ever made. The box office never saw it coming, but history did. Number 7. Dredd, 2012. You'd think a film about Judge Dredd, the helmeted lawman of a brutal future, would explode at the box office. Instead, Dredd landed with a thud. Released in the shadow of Hollywood superhero mania, it grossed just $41 million on a $45 million budget. The 3D gimmick hurt it. Poor marketing didn't help. But the movie itself, pure cult gold. Shot in South Africa, but produced with British talent, including writer Alex Garland and star Carl Urban Dredd, ditched camp for grit. The story unfolds in a single high-rise tower, ruled by gangs and slow-motion chaos. It's tight, stylish, and unapologetically violent, though not in a way that glorifies it. The slow-mo drug scenes, filmed like frozen glass, turned brutality into hypnotic art. Audiences missed it in theaters, but home releases turned it into legend. Fans still campaign for a sequel. It's the rare comic adaptation that stayed true to its grim DNA and proved that sometimes justice takes time to be recognized. Number 6. Thunderbirds, 2004. Thunderbirds are go, except at the box office they weren't. The live-action reboot of Jerry Anderson's beloved 60s series had nostalgia funding and British charm, but none of it could save it from crashing. With a massive budget of $57 million and a worldwide gross under 30, Thunderbirds became one of the decade's biggest sci-fi misfires. Critics slammed it for being too childish, fans hated it for being too Americanized, and newcomers just didn't care. But here's the twist. Beneath the glossy missteps lies a heartfelt attempt to reimagine a national treasure. Director Jonathan Frakes, yes, from Star Trek, filled it with bright visuals, creative gadgets, and a spirit of optimism that today feels refreshingly sincere. In a world of cynical reboots, Thunderbirds stands out as an earnest failure. Kids who grew up watching it now defend it online as the movie that made them love sci-fi. Maybe that's the best kind of redemption. Not critical acclaim, but new fans who never knew it was a flop. Number 5. Moon, 2009. If you think big sci-fi needs big budgets, Moon will prove you wrong. Made on a shoestring $5 million budget by British director Duncan Jones, this quiet masterpiece takes place almost entirely inside one lonely lunar base. No aliens, no explosions, just Sam Rockwell, and a mystery that bends your mind. When Moon hit theaters, it earned barely $10 million worldwide, but what it lacked in box office glory, it gained in legacy. Rockwell plays Sam Bell, an astronaut, nearing the end of his 3-year contract mining helium on the far side of the moon. His only companion is a talking robot named Gertie. Everything seems routine until he discovers something shocking about himself. The revelation is more emotional than any space battle could be. The film's minimalist visuals, practical model work, and haunting score by Clint Mansell gave it an authenticity that even billion-dollar productions can't match. It's not about saving the world. It's about understanding your own existence. Critics adored it. Audiences who found it later called it a masterpiece of isolation and identity. Moon didn't crash, it just orbited quietly until we were ready to appreciate its brilliance. In a world addicted to CGI chaos, Duncan Jones gave us silence, dust, and a man talking to himself on the far side of forever. Number 4. Lockout, 2012. Let's be honest, Lockout isn't Shakespeare. It's a fast, scrappy, wisecracking slice of space pulp, and that's exactly why it's great. When it landed in 2012, critics rolled their eyes and called it Die Hard in space. But they missed the point. This British-backed production starring Guy Pearce was having fun. It never took itself too seriously, and maybe that's why audiences didn't know what to make of it. The plot's simple. A wrongly accused government agent is sent to rescue the president's daughter from an orbiting prison full of criminals. Cue chaos, one-liners, and explosions. The effects were rough around the edges, but Pierce's performance carried pure 90s energy, smirking through danger, cracking jokes between punches, and somehow making it all look effortless. Produced in part by EuropaCorp with British creative muscle, Lockout fizzled at the box office. But over time, its unapologetic throwback tone gained defenders. It reminded fans of when sci-fi could be both gritty and gleeful. No lectures about destiny, just a sarcastic hero and an impossible mission. Today, Lockout plays like a love letter to old-school adventure cinema. It may not have broken records, but it broke monotony. Sometimes a movie doesn't need awards. It just needs style, swagger, and a sense of fun that never asks for permission. Number 3. The Zero Theorem, 2013. Before algorithms ruled our lives, the Zero Theorem tried to warn us. Directed by Terry Gilliam, the same visionary behind Brazil, this British sci-fi mind-bender imagined a future where meaning itself has been outsourced. It starred Christoph Waltz as Cohen Leth, a reclusive computer genius trying to solve the ultimate formula that explains existence, or maybe erases it. Released in 2013, it barely made a ripple. Its box office haul was microscopic, its reviews mixed, and its marketing non-existent. Yet beneath that failure lay a story bursting with color, madness, and melancholy. Gilliam filled the screen with neon clutter, surreal costumes, and satire so sharp it almost hurt to laugh. It's a world where corporations sell happiness, cameras watch every heartbeat, and humanity hides behind screens. Sound familiar? Critics at first didn't know what to do with it. Some called it incoherent, others saw it as a masterpiece trapped in chaos. But over time, audiences rediscovered it online. Fans noticed the details: Waltz's heartbreaking performance, the haunting score, and Gilliam's signature mix of humor and despair. What makes the Zero Theorem special isn't its story, it's its feeling. That quiet, aching sense that technology is swallowing our souls while we smile for the camera. It failed commercially, but like all of Gilliam's work, it predicted exactly where we were heading. In a world obsessed with data and distraction, the Zero Theorem stands as a lonely voice asking the question no one wants to hear. What if the meaning of life is that there isn't one? Number 2. The Fountain, 2006. Darren Aronofsky's The Fountain didn't just aim high, it reached for eternity. With Hugh Jackman and Rachel Weisz leading 3 interconnected stories across time, space, and imagination, it was designed to be a sweeping meditation on life and loss. But in 2006, audiences wanted action, not philosophy. The movie earned only $15 million in the United States, a fraction of its budget, yet what they missed was stunning. The Fountain uses visual poetry instead of spectacle. Aronofsky filmed galaxies using macrophotography, chemical reactions shot under microscopes, giving the cosmos a natural, organic look that digital effects could never replicate. Jackman's performance shifts from a modern scientist to a Mayan explorer to a man floating toward a dying star, all tied together by one eternal question: how far would you go to save someone you love? Critics were divided, but over the years, the film gained an almost spiritual following. Its haunting score by Clint Mansell became iconic, played in countless trailers and tributes. What once felt confusing now feels timeless. The Fountain is a story about acceptance, about realizing that immortality isn't living forever, but loving deeply before time runs out. It may have sunk financially, but artistically, it soared higher than anyone expected. Some films fade after release. This one keeps growing every time someone dares to look up. Number 1. Children of Men, 2006. Some movies don't just imagine the future, they foresee it. Children of Men, directed by Alfonso Cuarón and backed by British studios, painted a world on the brink. Released in 2006, it stunned critics but puzzled audiences, earning less than its $76 million budget. Too bleak, they said, too real. But time has proven it was simply too far ahead. The story follows Clive Owen as Theo, a tired man asked to protect a woman carrying the first pregnancy in 18 years. Society has collapsed, refugees flood the streets, propaganda fills every screen, and hope feels extinct. Cuarón's long, unbroken camera shots drop you right inside the chaos. No cuts, no comfort, no escape. It's one of the most immersive pieces of filmmaking ever attempted. What felt grim back then now feels prophetic. Its imagery, border fences, riots, and collapsing cities could have been pulled from today's headlines. Yet, at its heart, Children of Men isn't about despair. It's about endurance. Amid all the noise and ruin, there's still a spark worth saving. The film may have stumbled at the box office, but it soared in legacy. Critics now hail it as one of the century's defining sci-fi works, raw, intelligent, and deeply human. It dared to ask, not how the world ends, but how we keep believing in it. In 2006, audiences weren't ready for Children of Men. Today, it feels like the future finally caught up. So maybe failure isn't the opposite of greatness. Maybe it's the path to it. These 15 films proved that box office numbers can lie, but vision never does. They stumbled, they vanished, they got laughed at. And yet, here we are still talking about them. Which of these underrated British sci-fi gems do you think deserves a comeback? Drop your pick in the comments, hit subscribe, and let's keep rediscovering the movies that dared to dream, even when nobody else believed.